Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 5 Steps to Succeeding as a Small Business online webinar. Super excited to be here. My name is Jennifer Lamb, and I'm an agency development manager here at Google. What that means is I work with our premier partner agencies such as eMarketing Concepts. Super excited that Bruce and Andy are joining me today. What today is really focused on is giving you kind of the tools, tips, and tricks to best understand how you can be successful as a small business when it comes to digital marketing, online presence, and we're going to get into a lot of other things. Right now in the marketplace, there's so many different tools, so many different options when it comes to trying to be successful online. So really what we're hoping to do today is provide you with some answers, and who better to provide those answers but eMarketing Concepts. Without further ado, I think I'll hand it over to you guys for a quick intro of who you are, what you do.
Yes, this is Andy Hulit. I'm the PPC manager here at eMarketing Concepts. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jenny. My name is Bruce Gordon. I'm CEO of eMarketing Concepts, and we're very, very happy to be here. Thank you.
Of course. Well, let's first start off with telling a little bit of your backstory and kind of your history here, because who better to answer some questions for small businesses than you guys?
Well, thank you. I've been involved in the sales and marketing industry for over 30 years. And during that time, I've had the pleasure of working with over 5,000 businesses, whether they've been my own companies or whether they've been clients or consulting arrangements. And I'd like to think that over that 30 plus years, I've learned a thing or two about how to market. And one of the things that I will say that is probably the most common issue that I see with most businesses is business owners and the marketing people have a very difficult time trying to really emulate how their prospective customers behave.
Interesting.
And I think that that's really a critical part of understanding marketing, is knowing how their prospective customer or their prospect thinks and behaves. That's critical. If you can put yourself in the position of your prospect, then you can make much clearer, better decisions about your marketing and how to present your business.
Right.
And I think that that has changed how consumers behave in today's world is so different than the way it was 30 years ago.
Really?
30 years ago, 20 years ago, people used to get out their yellow pages. They'd look for what they were interested in. They'd find a little snippet and they'd see whether or not it was a good match. If it was a good match, they'd pick up the telephone and they'd call them. Today, consumers are armed so much different. Consumers are armed with so much more information, so much more powerful resources and tools. Today, 75% plus of US adults are going online first to research anything. So if they're interested in your services and your products, they're going online first. And of course, when they go online, where are they going? They're going to Google. The lion's share of where all information is found. So it's critically important that when your prospective customer is looking for the products and services that you provide, that you be found on that first page.
Awesome. So first and foremost, got to know your audience, got to know your customer and understand that customer behavior.
Got to be thinking like your customer.
Thinking like your customer. I love that. And then once you are thinking like them, showing up. You've got to be able to show up. So talk to me a little bit about what it means to show up. What does that, first page result of Google really look like, and how can businesses equip themselves to show up?
Well, first of all, you have to be on the first page. There may appear to be a second page and a third page and a fourth page. Really, in your prospective customer's mind, there's only page one. I can't even remember the last time that I looked at page 2 on Google. I'm much more inclined to redo my search, my keyword, before I'm willing to look at page 2. Why? Because I actually trust Google more than I trust myself. I must have made a mistake in terms of what I searched for. So I search for something, I look at the results. If I don't see exactly the right fit that I'm looking for, I must have made a mistake. I redo my search, and then I look at the page once I've got what I know is going to be accurate. So I trust Google. I know I have to be on the first page. That is so critically important. Second page doesn't exist.
Doesn't work.
That's right.
Okay, so talking about the first page, there's obviously 2 different sections of that first page.
There is.
So let's dive into that a little bit more.
And there's just not a lot of places to be on the first page.
Right.
You can be on the PPC side, which is paid advertising, and that's Andy's specialty.
Yes.
Or you can wind up on the Google organic results side, which is the natural results. These are the ones that Google feels are the best results for that particular search, besides the paid responses. So perhaps, Andy, you can tell us a little bit about the PPC and how that works?
Certainly. Well, Google AdWords has positioned itself as the top 4 results. When you go to Google and you search for something, the companies that are in the top 3 to 4 positions pay to be there. And that's really a huge way to get that exposure and that presence and that visibility that clients or our clients desperately need to capture the traffic, generate conversions, sales, leads, and so on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think what's really important to note too is the 2 typically also work really well together.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. I mean, while that one page is a lot of real estate, 2 is better than 1.
Always.
And so while you want to have the PPC results so that you can get there in a hurry and you can be wherever you want, you also want to be on the first page organically. And the statistics are overwhelming. If you have organic results and PPC results, 89% of the time you will get a click. And this came from a very reputable source, Google. So 89% of the time when you get results both organically and on PPC, you're going to get conversions. And that's really what you're after, not just visibility.
Right. And it comes back to this trustworthiness piece, right? So making sure that your customers feel completely 100% trustworthy even before they get to your site.
That's right.
Because having both there is such a credibility boost. So speaking of that, I mean, showing up there is super important. Showing up organically, showing up PPC wise, and you guys offer amazing strategies to kind of make sure that both of those seamlessly come together. But let's talk a little bit about messaging and then even like what you are presenting when it comes to ad copy and creating an experience that's going to be good for users. What does that look like?
That's right. Well, before I tackle that question, let me talk about something that you brought up. You mentioned the word trustworthiness, and that's such a critical component of the equation because you've got visibility.
Right.
And while that 4 corners of Google page 1 seems like a very small piece of real estate, there's a lot of information on page 1.
Yep.
And so not only do you want to be there and you want to be front and center, but you want to be the most attractive or trustworthy result that's on page 1 so that you get the first call.
Right.
Because the business who gets the first call really controls their own destiny.
Right.
Guy number 2 can be awesome, but he may never get called at all because guy number 1 controls his destiny.
Yeah.
So how do you create that awesome, that 5-star trustworthiness so that when your prospective customers are looking at the results on page 1, how do you get them to pick you first? And that's a big part of the equation. Well, when you're looking at page 1 and you see one of the results that has an astronomical number of 5-star reviews next to the result, chances are that is going to convey a strong message to your prospect that, hey, this business is trustworthy. So managing your reviews, optimizing your reviews is a critical component in today's world in terms of building trustworthiness to prospects.
Right.
That's number 1. If they do click on your listing and they go to your website, does your website convey your message well?
Right.
Is it compelling? Is it powerful? Does it resonate with your prospects? These are all critical components that we look at at eMarketing Concepts, not just visibility, but how do we enhance trustworthiness in all of these components?
Right.
And every single one of these components is important. It's like going to school and having 6 different subjects. You got to score an A in every single one of the subjects in order to do well in digital marketing. If you have a C out of six of your subjects, it really brings your overall grade down. And so far, really all we've been talking about is trustworthiness in terms of humans, the human eyeball. What are they going to trust most? But there's also trustworthiness in terms of appeasing these guys, Google. We have to make sure that Google trusts us as well, because this is another critical component in making everything work. Google has the same problem that every business owner has. They have to make their customers happy. That's right. Yeah. They have to make sure that everybody who searches on Google has a great experience.
Right.
So if you're searching for a business and you click on that listing and it takes 5 seconds for the homepage to land, guess what? Google's not going to be happy about it. That's right. Google's not going to be happy about that. So you're not going to be on the first page, nor are you going to be on the first page if your site doesn't comply with all the guidelines that Google has in terms of what makes a great site. It has to be technically sound. It has to be compliant to what Google wants to see. It has to have relevant content. The content has to be upgraded and changed recently. They can't have management. They can't have stuff that's 20 years old and outdated. Right. What kind of experience are Google users going to see? So Google is very actively concerned with making sure that your site is current, is updated, is compliant, is state-of-the-art, and basically is going to give the Google users a positive experience. That's critical. Don't even think about being on first page if Google doesn't trust your site in all of these regards.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's important to note on the PPC side, this is taken into consideration as well, right? We actually look at landing page experience as a factor when we're deciding if we're going to serve your ad. So a huge piece there, you can't just pay for that spot. You've got to be able to back it up with a solid experience. And it's something that is super important. And I'm so glad that you guys focus on it from a myriad of different perspectives, because it's going to affect, like you said, with the report card, it's going to affect 8 things down the line. So speaking of that, I mean, is there anything in particular that you see as being very important when it comes to website development, conversion rate optimization that you think is critical that consumers are doing and customers are doing with their websites today?
Well, gosh, Bruce mentioned Google's looking for straight A's. Well, like you just mentioned, Jenny, the website experience is a major factor. Having a mobile-friendly, optimized website is essential, not just to the quality score that you can get in a Google AdWords campaign, but to the user's experience, your organic presence. So having a website that is got the latest technology and is as mobile friendly as possible will definitely help you achieve that A grade in that part of the report card.
I love that you brought up mobile, because you know, we've seen that mobile moment happen. The number of searches on your cell phone is as they've now surpassed the number of searches on desktop. So
it's not a phone anymore. It's a computer. It's a computer that moves around with you. Exactly. So if you're not thinking about your phone or your smartphone in terms of how you do your digital marketing, you're not thinking. You're really not.
Yep.
And the world has changed. It's, you know, it used to be where you used to be able to go to one doctor and he could basically cure, you know, all the various things that you have. But now there's a doctor for your feet, there's a doctor for your internal organs, there's a doctor for your head, there's a doctor for everything. And digital marketing has become just as specialized. You have to have very talented writers who can present your copy effectively. You have to have very qualified and capable technicians that can look at your website and understand how to tweak it so that it works. on a mobile gadget, or it works on this gadget, or it works on this device, and so forth. That requires tremendous amount of technical expertise. You need to have strategists that basically can think like your prospective customers really well and can understand what they're looking for and present your digital marketing campaign in such a way where they're going to be extremely responsive.
Definitely.
There are so many different trades or specializations in digital marketing now. One guy can't do it all.
Right.
You really need a team of experts that are used to working with each other, that are all very capable in all of their respective areas, because they're all important.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. You cannot have a C grade or worse in any one of your subject matters.
Exactly.
You just simply can't.
Well, and I was going to say too, I mean, everything is constantly changing also right now. So not only staying on top of and optimizing and making sure that, you know, your campaigns are running smoothly, but then you have to be learning about the next innovation, the new, you know, product that's coming out, the different way that, you know, we're thinking about ads and content.
Google is constantly changing, so it's important to have someone that is up to date with all those changes. That's for sure, Jenny.
The only constant is change. That's what they say here.
Right.
So, but I think with that being said, what I want to now transition over to is talking about kind of tracking. How are we making sure, because we've talked now about setting ourselves up for success, understanding your customer really well, making sure that you're showing up consistently, whether that's organic or on the paid side, having a solid website experience that's going to, you know, promote this trustworthiness. Now I want to talk about, okay, is it all working, tracking, and how do you guys think about conversions and making sure that, you know, you're successful for your customers, and how we kind of optimize from there?
Well, the first thing is it's a process.
Right.
You're never going to set it all up right the first time and have optimal results.
Right.
You have to set it up. You have to look at the results, analyze the results, and then figure out what you're going to do so that you can take that C and turn it into a B minus. And then you make some other changes and you look at the results and you keep optimizing your efforts in a variety of different areas until you wind up with your straight A report card.
Right.
So it is a process, and thank goodness there's tremendous tools that are available today.
Absolutely.
You really can dissect marketing and advertising much better than you could 20 years ago. It's, you know, where traffic is coming from. You know, you can measure the ROI. You can measure where people are looking. There's heat maps. There's so many different tools out there that really tell you accurately, honestly, how your consumers are behaving. And if you're not taking advantage of those, and if you're not really looking at the process, looking at the results, and then optimizing until you finally get the results that you're looking for, then you're really not doing a good job at digital marketing. It is a process. It does take time. And without question, there's a lot of effort that goes into it.
Yeah. So some of the things that we can be tracking, I mean, Andy, can you think of like a few different types of things that you make sure that your customers are absolutely taken care of?
Yes, it's actually pretty surprising how many clients hire us to work on their AdWords accounts that don't have any form of tracking in place. And it really is impossible to figure out what your return on the investment is. So day one, we work to set up Google Analytics, which is vital to tell how long people stay on the site, how many pages they visit, and most importantly, how many conversions are being generated, whether it's a lead generation form or a shopping cart for an e-commerce good. In addition to Google Analytics, we also implement call tracking. So if we can figure out what the prospects are responding to on the site, what's working, what isn't, and then see what's driving those conversions, those phone calls, collecting all that data, like Bruce said, analyzing it, and then identifying what's working, emphasize more on that, and then cut out what's not working, and really reduce the waste, freeing up more budget for what is working and drive those sales home.
Right.
So
I think that's great. I mean, and talk about like a change from 30 years ago. I mean, when you would have a billboard up there and no clue if that was working, or maybe someone said, I saw your billboard down the interstate, but you know, there was no way to say, okay, this specific ad led to this call.
There was an old advertising thing that out of every dollar, only 50 cents of the dollar worked. The problem is you didn't know which 50 cents exactly. And the world is changing that in that regard. So we certainly can tell what's working a lot better now. And as Andy mentioned, you take what is working and you really work and focus on making that much more far-reaching, and the stuff that isn't, you figure out if you can change it and make it work and make it part of the success package, or you disregard it and you concentrate on the stuff that is working.
Absolutely.
So it's fairly common sense, but you'd be surprised at how many people have difficulty with it.
Well, I mean, and that comes back to the process piece, right? Like, this stuff takes constant thought and optimization. You're always going to have something new to update, something new to try, and have to be thinking about innovation and how you're approaching all of these things. It's not an easy checklist anymore of, okay, I got this set up, now I can let this roll.
Well, one frustration that some clients express to us is that their website receives plenty of traffic, but the phone doesn't ring, or they just don't see any leads or ROI come from it. So part of our analytics and analysis is not just to figure out, are you showing up for the right words or phrases, and not just to confirm whether or not the message is being relayed properly. Maybe all of those, maybe you've got an A grade on the quality of traffic and the message, but the C grade is on the landing page. So without some sort of tracking and someone really thinking about it, you just won't know and won't be able to get to the bottom and identify what the issue is and work to improve it. So it really is all about figuring out what's working and identifying the issue that's causing the waste. And like you said, Bruce, sometimes you just have to let it go and focus on what is working and grow it. But maybe there could be a problem with that website that you just have to identify and fix.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you don't know what you don't know. So I think, coming back to that, setting up day one analytics, so you are tracking everything, is huge. And that you've got a team then of specialists that can go in and diagnose the problems for each of those things that come up.
That's right. You need a team.
You need a team.
You need a team in today's world, without question.
Yeah. Great. So I think what I would love to transition to talking about is a few questions now that we got from some of the viewers. I know I'm putting you guys on the hot seat a little bit.
Bring it on.
And then we can dive in. So I think one of the questions that someone had was thinking about products with a long sales cycle. So we've talked a lot about showing up and being there when someone, is searching for you or is potentially in market for you. But as you know, obviously there's so many different types of customers out there. So this person's question was thinking about strategies for longer sales cycles, most information is geared towards a quicker turnover for products. So how do you at EMC, think about making sure that you're putting your best foot forward when it comes to, strategy for those products that maybe take a little bit longer for someone to pull the trigger on buying or getting in touch?
One small part of the puzzle is the use of remarketing, because with a remarketing campaign, you can set it up so it will remarket to an individual after they've left your site when that sales cycle begins. And if you have an open dialogue with the customer and they say, Andy, it usually takes 6 months for us to close a deal. Well, we can have a strategic remarketing campaign in play where we offer up a different message to that individual on a schedule. So in month 2, they see a different message. Month 3, a slightly different message. And you can use that tool via Google AdWords to stay in front of someone that may not be ready to move forward 6, 7, 8 months down the road.
Absolutely.
So that would be a way.
I love that. And I think that comes hand in hand. To give a quick synopsis there, those are those ads that, you've looked at that pair of shoes and I'm seeing that pair of shoes again.
Right.
And then I buy the pair of shoes, even though I wasn't going to, but now I've seen them enough that I'm way too excited about them to leave them in the cart. So I think, something like that Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, it's human nature too.
Right. Right.
Bottom line is sometimes people need to see things 5 or 6 or 7 times before they get to the yes.
Yes.
I think I'm going to pull the trigger now.
Right.
So remarketing is tremendously powerful.
And you touched on this even right when we started. People are doing way more research these days. There's so much information out there, and there's so much good stuff for us to be looking at that it probably is going to take a few trips to that website to pull the trigger before you decide. So remarketing can be super beneficial.
Yeah.
And what's great about those is that allows you to be a little bit more creative, have an image ad or something a little bit more enticing.
A lot of flexibility there.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Most definitely.
Perfect. Okay. Thinking about this one's an interesting question. So if I started with one way of marketing, so I think what they mean is like, SEO, SEM, or like website development, which would be the best strategy to start with?
I always present to the prospects or clients, it's based on resources and need. It depends on whether they have an organic presence that they can generate some activity off of. But if they haven't, I'm an AdWords guy, PPC, so I'm constantly pushing that part of it. So I'm always in favor of going forward with pay-per-click, and it really comes down to what are they ranking for organically? Well, maybe we don't need to put too much budget over there. We can focus more on important phrases that they aren't ranking for, that are vital to their business. So you ask me 9 times out of 10, I'll say pay-per-click is probably, I can figure out a way to make that work and steer it towards the
right direction. Yeah.
Yes.
But in general, at eMarketing Concepts, we listen to our clients.
Right.
We want to understand what their situation is, what they've done before, where they want to go, and what their budget is to get there.
Right.
So, basically you really have to problem solve, but you have to know what you're dealing with first before you can recommend the right type of solution.
I completely
agree. It depends on what the client situation is.
Well, and I think it's too about like asking those questions, getting that initial report card and saying, oh, we've got some B's, but we've got an F right here, and we need to fix that before we can get to maybe some of these other areas.
That's right.
But then ideally, we get to a place where everything is kind of encompassed, because like you said, it all works better together. So if we can really focus on, all of the problem areas and elevate those, but say case by case and yeah, really understanding that audience, which is something that your team does very well. But
well, thank you.
Yeah. And that brings us up a good point too, which I think we've been talking a lot about, like understanding your audience and understanding your customer. But when you start out with, building out a digital marketing strategy, like fully understanding every piece of the business, which is where the tracking comes into play. So having that set up right out of the gate is huge. Great.
Absolutely. You need to understand what's happening when someone gets to your site in order to generate a higher return on your investment and more conversion. So without that, you can spend all the money you want, and sure, you're going to get some sales and leads, but you're not going to be able to take it to the next level and really go after it.
Yeah. Okay, Andy, I've got a technical one for you.
Okay.
How do we optimize new expanded text ads for AdWords?
So AdWords, in the last 12 months rolled out these new ETAs, and it's very exciting because AdWords used the same ad style for as long as I've been in the business, which is 8 years now. And what it did was expand that billboard, and it allows you to not only build in a great call to action to get someone to actually click on the ad, it allows you to use some of that space to make it a very relevant ad, which Google AdWords, the system prefers, because it helps out with a quality score, which is part of the process. And it really helps to build your brand. So there's 3 parts to the ad. And now that there's all of these additional characters, you can really relay the message that you want to and that you feel that your clients are going to respond to. So it's a game changer.
It's a game changer, absolutely. Yeah. And one thing that I always like to highlight about it too is it's mobile first thinking, really. And when with all of that extra information, you know, when you go to do a search on your cell phone now, all you're seeing are ads. You've got to scroll down to get to organic.
Right.
So those new expanded text ads are chock full of information for users and allow us to provide as much content as we possibly can. And then the only thing I would add to that is we've got a great opportunity to include more extensions and more relevant information with your ETAs that we were able to do before, but now it's better than ever.
If you're working with an AdWords manager that really knows what they're doing, you can position yourself to have an ad that really stands out in a crowd. And sometimes that's what all it takes to get the click. And you're not going to get the lead or the sale or the conversion without getting the click first. So it's important that you have someone that knows everything that's available in the system.
Do you know anybody?
Yeah. I know a few people. Sure. Yes.
Very good.
Thank you, Bruce. Appreciate that.
Awesome. And I think, I mean, that like one technical question just goes to show, okay, like here's another product evolution thrown at you. How can we as experts kind of continue to adapt and make sure that you're taking advantage of all of these opportunities versus missing the boat? And so that constant vigilance and like having an expert there that's going to be able to update your account for you is hugely beneficial.
And since we're a premier agency with Google, we have Jenny on our side that keeps us filled in with all of the latest updates with Google. So we're positioned to know what's going on with AdWords before many of the other agencies out there. So that's you can have a leg up on your competition.
We kind of get an advanced copy of the test. It's really is a little bit. It's very helpful.
Yes,
we cherish our relationship with Google.
We do too. Well, so last question that we've got from the gang right now is how, other than paying for the slot, can you get a website in the top 3 of a category search? So this one is obviously another portion of the business that I don't know, Andy's not an account manager in that portion, but you've got, I mean, a huge team devoted to that side of the business as well.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. SEO is a huge portion of our business, and really the reason why is because you've got to do both. In my opinion, 89% of people that are listed on page 1 for PPC and SEO get a click. That's just a stat that you cannot ignore. So with that said, SEO is a huge portion of our business and certainly our clients' business as well.
Right.
And in order to be at the top, you have to do everything that we've talked about well.
Right.
Again, Google's only going to show the businesses that they feel are going to return a great experience to their users. And ultimately, our clients benefit from that. You just have to know what Google is looking for.
Definitely. Great.
Yes.
Okay. So kind of summarizing all of that great stuff that we've talked about. I mean, when it comes to those, I guess, 5 steps that we initially started with, it's 1, it's knowing your audience, understanding your customers' behavior, talking about, you know, that's the first place that we've got to be. If you have the mind's eye of them and understand day to day what they're going for, what they're looking for, we're going to be able to set up a marketing strategy that's going to be successful for your business. Then moving into showing up. Hey, okay, they're looking for you.
There.
Yes.
Gotta be there.
Gotta be there, whether that's SEO and PPC, doing
or
them
both,
together,
yes,
which is always what we like to hear. And, you know, not only showing up is important, but also how are you showing up? This goes back to that trustworthiness piece. Do we have reviews? Have you thought about that website experience that you're going to be showcasing? And also, are we using the latest and greatest as far as ad copy and text goes to make sure that, you know, you've got an ad that resonates with users?
One thing that, if I may, I don't know whether or not we have time, but you know, in today's world, I really think that review management really needs to be thought of as part of the sales process. Before, in days of old, you would sell something, and once the customer bought the product, you moved on.
Right.
And I think that sales cycle needs to be expanded so that after people have an experience with your company, part of the sales cycle is to get their feedback. And the feedback is so important for so many reasons. It's important from an operational standpoint to correct any deficiencies, but it's also important that if they have a stellar experience, that you get them to talk about it and broadcast it on the internet. And that is something that eMarketing Concepts can help you with.
Oh, great.
It's a huge part that's been overlooked. The sales cycle needs to be expanded so review management and review optimization is included in your business operations.
Absolutely.
If you don't have that, you're really missing out, because I suppose that there are some businesses out there where online reviews are not that important. But for the vast majorities of businesses out there, and I think that it's only going to continue to grow in the future, more people are looking for that trustworthiness from what other people's experiences have been. And if you're not thinking about that, you're leaving some money on the table.
Well, and one thing that we didn't touch on too much, but where that falls into just perfectly, is making sure your profiles are up to date on Google My Business, on Facebook, and that people know that you're there, and disseminating that, connecting with you via those channels.
Is your message clearly conveyed in those avenues as well?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important. Right. So, that kind of moves into really what we talked about with having a strong website, being fast, being easy to navigate, and really having a clear call to action. So not only are you trustworthy when someone clicks, but you're trustworthy when they actually get to your site and start to interact with your business. A few things that I just, I think are important to note there as well, like being able to be accessible. If you've got a phone number on there, making sure that someone will pick up the phone if someone calls.
That's pretty important.
Pretty important.
Yes.
Little things like that. But it's just funny how sometimes, but thinking about what that experience is when someone gets there, it's so much more than just that initial click.
And people are not patient. They want instant gratification. So if you're offering up a phone number, obviously someone needs to be there to pick it up very quickly. Otherwise, they're just going to simply hit the back button and move on to the next. So that's a major part, and if, for many of the clients I work with, they have a form for a lead, and I always ask, well, first we test it out to make sure that everyone that needs to get it is actually getting the lead, and we also have a conversation about how quickly someone follows up with those people, because business owners are busy. They're doing their day-to-day routine. Sometimes they don't put that much thought into how quickly they move on prospects and leads. So this is all a part of the service that we provide, is just not to make sure that you're showing up for the right words, or the ad is compelling, or the website is optimized and relevant, but it's also to make sure that there's good follow through, and so that everything can work together.
And I think that's one of the advantages that eMarketing Concepts has, is that a lot of our staff has a lot of life experience and a lot of business experience, and we understand that it's not just about driving the traffic to you, but what can we do so that basically you're going to get the sale. And a lot of digital marketing companies fall short in that regard because simply they don't have the business experience. And that also, really should be taken into account when you consider who you're working with.
And I think that transitions us perfectly into the last piece that we were talking about, which is trackability and optimization from there, right? So saying, okay, this is what we're scoring right now. We're not just getting traffic. We got you this many phone calls this month. We got you this many sales, this many lead form submissions. How do we specifically make sure that we're following through? And that's such a different piece to us, and something that you guys, we set up right out of the gate. So, I think with that, know your audience, showing up, relevant ad copy, track or website optimization, and trackability. I think those are 5. I think I counted right.
I think we've covered at least 5.
I think certainly, definitely.
May have given you a few freebies
I know.
today.
Absolutely. So with that, I know that we have in the RSVP form that some people filled out, there was an opportunity to win a Google Home. So Bruce, I'm going to have you do the honors and draw for us from our Google partner bag.
Okay. Here we go.
Who will be the winner?
Oh, there's quite a few in here.
There's quite a few in there. Yes.
Okay.
I'll just do their first name.
All right. That would be John Muska.
John. Okay. John, we will be following up with you via email.
Congratulations, John.
Congratulations. Very exciting. And just to kind of end here, what I think we wanted to talk about is thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure chatting with you guys more about this. This webinar will be available on the EMC channel moving forward. And if you mention it to your EMC rep or someone at EMC, there'll be a special offer for you. So be sure that you mention this when you get in touch.
Thank you very much for joining. We really appreciate it.
Have a good day.